belt. Oh yeah. This is not a particularly fun job, but it must be done. So as the cover board comes on and we fit that, we have 3 layers of plywood here for the deck. It's quite substantial, and what I'm trying to do with the belt sander is using my hull as the datum, fairing up to the edge of the cover board and deck. I have run along it with the trimmer and a ball bearing on the bit, but just to finish it off, I'm just belt sanding this hull up and cleaning about 1/2 metre, 500 down, so that we can at some point roll fiberglass. Once we put a radius on this cover board here, roll fiberglass around and down. I'm not sure how far down we'll go, hopefully a fair way. And then I'd like to place a rubbing strake on the outside again to cover all this plywood. That'll be hardwood, not massive, but I think that'll be quite good for helping with strength and as your first point of impact. It's going to be interesting. So I'm just belt sanding. Nice thing about diagonals is a belt sander really tears up the wood across the grain. So with the grain it's quite slow, but across the grain it really rips it down, and because we have diagonals going this way, I can just basically put my belt sander at the opposite and run it up to the shear, and it's quite a nice angle for fairing. So I'll just keep going with that, and then once I've done that, I'll run fairing powder along here just to make sure the shear line is fair and looking good. Fun, fun. This is epoxy, this coat, and torture boarding that is just ridiculous. It's neat epoxy, it's so hard. When we get our layer of fairing powder on, which is post glass, so after the fiberglass, then if you're lucky, you'll get to see us on a torture board. But I love the belt sander because it's flat, it's a good workout, it's stupidly heavy, but it's just a good way to do it. I like it. Here's my scaffold in action. Nice. And up there we've started filling and fairing the top section of the boat there. Just making sure that the deck connection to hull is nice and fair. Filling all the nail holes, from the plastic nail gun and all that sort of stuff. What are you doing?
Video editing.
Is it fun?
Sometimes.
In the shed?
It's better in the shed than alone at home. It is fun most of the time.
That's good.
What are you doing?
Filming. Stuff. Cool. Portholes drawn on the side so that we know where to put, well, where not to put edge nails when we're through bolting. We don't want to hit any bronze nails. It'll make our life a little bit difficult. 3 portholes, plenty. 2 could be alright, but and then 2 on the front. I should probably explain what I've been doing to the cabin sides. We're going to strip plank the cabin sides out of Tas oak, We liked what Acorn to Arabella did. We obviously would make some slight changes to how they did it. We're going to have an internal, or we have, internal wall of plywood, 6mm around the whole cabin. So that creates a good face for the strip planking to go against and eliminates a lot of sanding and cleaning up on the inside face of the cabin. Basically, once the cabin is stripped up, then we can just laminate a veneer of some nice looking wood on the inside. So it looks like it's solid wooden cabin sides. And then on the outside, we're going to probably put another 6mm layer of ply against the strip planking. And then we're going to glass over the whole thing. So it will become very strong in the end. It will essentially become a part of the deck once you fill it and roll glass over the top of the cabin and down to the deck and over the side of the boat. We'll obviously need through bolts through the cabin sides in various spots. So I'm just marking out portholes now so we know where we should put the bolts or where we should not put the bronze nails when we're edge nailing, because our plastic nail gun, unfortunately the nails aren't long enough to edge nail inch stock 25mm, which is what we're going to use for the cabin sides. We don't have the portholes yet, they're on their way. They're second hand, they need a lot of cleaning up. We found them in the Netherlands for wrecked ship over there, and we're having them sent down. And we don't actually know the wall thickness, like our minimum cabin side thickness from those portholes. So we're going to the designer's thickness of cabin sides, and we can always make it slightly thicker if we need, and we're just hoping that the portholes fit in there okay. The cabin side structure, I've made sort of a strong back. It's essentially, I went around the four corners and put posts in, pine posts, made sure they were plumb and square and true to everything I want, to how I want the cabin shape to be. And then ran athwartships and 4.5 pine, top and bottom. So then when this plywood goes against, the 6mm ply, sits flat against this pine, we plastic nailed it to the pine. So then it's very rigid, but we'll still be able to remove this pine strong back later once the cabin side is stripped up. So I think this is going to work quite well, because right now we already have a very solid structure and it's square and uniform, and we know that so long we're stripping to that plywood, we're running our strips against that plywood, the cabin side's going to be perfect. So it just eliminates a lot of thinking while you're covered in, well, while we're hopefully not covered in epoxy, but while we've got epoxy going off, trying to strip plank, trying to make everything accurate, we don't have to worry about that. We're just stripping against the plywood. We can even nail with the plastic nail gun through the ply into the strips if we want to. We'll just see how we go. So what I've done here is, oh, a possum has weed on the deck. I've prepared a lot of stock for the strip planking of the cabin sides. We put a little post up on our Patreon site requesting our Brains Trust there to give us some feedback on the cabin height and camber. We're in a bit of a pickle because we need to set a height for our cabin sides, and we have friends and family that are rather tall. We are ourselves pretty average height people, maybe a touch above average height, but our friends are over 6 foot tall, and do we make the cabin high enough for these people to be able to stand comfortably in our cabin while sacrificing a small amount of aesthetics and looks, or do we stick with what is comfortable for us and looks nice on the outside also? It's a bit of a conundrum, but I mean, everyone was pretty right. I think the general verdict is we're going to put a bit more camber in the cabin itself, so it'll have more than the deck obviously, and we might build the sides up a touch more, just so that we're sure that standing down below is comfortable. What we're doing is the first layer of strip planking is sort of tenoned in, like this, so lap joins around the whole cabin sides, and this first run will create a straight and level line across the cabin, because obviously it's got the deck camber, and if you're laminating inch stock you're going to create this arc the whole time and keep arcing your way up. But it's easier just to create a straight edge for now and then work up, and then if we want to taper in we can, but I think we'll just cut our deck house or our cabin top camber in later. So it's a bit of fun getting that started. I'm only going to do one run around and then I have to wait for If. She's away today, but I'm going to have to wait for her. I think If Girl will be a bit upset if I try and strip plank the cabin side by myself without her, which is fair enough. Also planning on getting the last layer of decking on the aft section. So what we've done there is we've discontinued making deck beams and we've run fore and aft supports. There's also, oh, my coffee. There's also coffee on the deck now. That's good. We've run fore and aft supports and knees in the center. So when we have a backstay, we will have plenty of strength, because it's sort of, we laminated from the stern post another knee along the stern post up the transom and transom frame, and then we connected that with a fore and aft structural blocking and two knees. So it's created this almost like a ring frame. It's super strong, and you can imagine like the pull on a backstay, the force it's putting on the transom. So that load is really distributed between deck beams, deck, transom, transom frame, and the stern post and the knees. And the stern post knee itself. So it should be plenty strong enough. So I think I'm going to glue that down while it's nice and cool. And then we can do that last bit of laying of deck, and then we will go and finish the cover boards. I mean, I'm just stoked that the cover boards are holding water. I mean, I can show you this. This is a pretty impressive effort for the cover boards. Thank you, cover boards, for doing your job. Look at that. Yep, that is holding a good amount of coffee. Nice and dark. There's my scarves. There, focus camera, focus. That's the scarf for the cover board, so it scarfs into the next one, runs along. And here's our blocking. Please excuse the chickens, they're hungry and making a lot of noise. And Obi's on the lookout. He keeps looking for dolphins, but he hasn't seen any. Where are the dolphins, mate? Where are the dolphins? Hey? Doing a bit of Titanic action. Oh! Good boy. Me and Obi batching.